getting started is the hardest part. Naturally, this is where I'll begin my presentation, because it was with this phrase I let go of my anxiety around participating in PK Night. Once I got started, I knew I'd finish. That's right, I totally therapized myself through this. Occupational therapists support our clients to do what they need to do, want to do, and love to do. OTs work with people throughout the lifespan and in various settings, from hospitals to outpatient centers, acute rehab facilities, at home and in school. Just like how at PK Night York, we define craft as anything you do involving skill, OTs define occupation as anything that occupies your time. In OT, we often start with a concept called task analysis. This is when we look at every step and everything we might need to perform an action, task, or activity. At this stage, we also think about what is a reasonable time, and are we in a good place for this? During this process, it's possible to identify any item that is missing or unavailable so that we have a chance to gather supplies and support before starting. To get that maximum person-occupation environment fit, we consider maybe the room's too hot, or outside is too cold. The lights are too bright, or we need to close the curtains. Maybe we are too close or too far away from our work surface. After all, we need a sturdy foundation to do anything safely. At this time, we also ask ourselves, do we need 2 people to succeed at this task, or are there too many distractions around? I have found that almost any piece of a task can be modified, replaced, or sometimes skipped, and still result in success. And sometimes this process also results in us needing to redefine success. Another phrase I use in my practice is, let's just try it. So sorry, Master Yoda, but there has to be try. Not many of us need to use the force to raise an X-wing from the swamp, but to someone who is functioning in a limited capacity relative to what they are used to, simple tasks can feel equally insurmountable. This is where a therapist's skills of adaptation and compensation come into play in order to support our clients. Often, we suggest that they perform a task sitting down, or take a larger task into smaller parts, use adaptive equipment if needed, and take a break before they're tired. Energy conservation is a philosophy often employed by OTs to help clients be successful without becoming exhausted. Physical changes like after a stroke, an injury, surgery, or prolonged illness can greatly impact how much effort something takes. You might find this to be true even if you're only experiencing the impact of a poor night's sleep. Lucky for me, I usually hear, oh, well, that went better than I thought, or I really do feel better now that I'm up and moving. See, getting started is the hardest part. So here we go. Now, take your time. My grandmother Brengle had a saying, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. Most folks around here know as soon as you start that phrase exactly how it ends. Today, our culture puts a high value on productivity, so for many of us, putting this theory into practice is a bit of a challenge. So I don't know who in here might want or need permission, but here you go, you can take it from me. Take your time. Slow things down. Make sure you know where you are, what you have, where you're going, and what you need. And then breathe. This one often goes hand in hand with take your time, and more often than not, I'm saying it to myself as much as to the patient. Our brains and bodies need oxygen and water to do anything. The chemical reactions that fire neural impulses through our muscles and our brains, they need oxygen and water. Exhaling through the hardest part of an action can also help lessen pain. So take a drink, take a deep breath, and then tell me what you need. Instead of offering help, I'll often ask my clients to tell me what they need. This promotes critical thinking, requires sequencing and future planning, supports autonomy, and is a form of self-advocacy. Self-advocacy is a form of self-care. I believe that adults had the best of intentions when they taught us as children to be self-sufficient. Where many of us run into difficulty then, as we get older, is knowing when to ask for help and being open to feeling deserving of that help. As I grew up towards the end of high school, getting ready for college and into my first jobs, my mother would often remind me it was less important to know the answers and more important to know where to look for them. She was and is absolutely right. What I needed to learn from experience, however, that it was only sometimes the answers are found by asking other people. Not everything is online or in books. Knowledge can be found there, but wisdom comes from others, their experiences, and our own. When I'm working with a patient and I begin to feel hesitation from them, I find myself saying, I am right here, or I'm with you. What I mean is, physically, I am right here with you. My attention is on you, and I am invested in your success. Through therapeutic use of self, OTs build trust by being vulnerable and being present with their patients. So let's go back to redefining success for our last phrase. If you were sitting down to do it, you are still doing it. There are times in our lives when we realize that we need to unlearn correctness. There's not necessarily one right way to do something, not one correct way. So when I'm working with someone, my first concern is it safe? My second concern is it functional? If the answer to both is yes, let's keep going. If it takes you 20 minutes instead of 5, you're still doing it. If you have to do a little bit now and a little bit later, and a little bit even later than that, you are still doing it. If you have to ask for help, you're still doing it. When we redefine success, it helps to start with little goals. Meeting these little goals motivates us and helps us move towards our big goals. Because taking that first step and getting started is the hardest part.